It was the night of their 5th wedding anniversary. Fatima stood in front of the full-length mirror in their modest Lagos apartment, fixing her earrings. She looked stunning, as always, sleek makeup, tailored gown, and heels that clicked with authority on the tile floor. Meanwhile, seated behind her on the edge of the bed was her husband, Azim, kind-eyed, soft-spoken, and yes, overweight. "Are you ready?" he asked, smiling warmly. She turned, barely glancing at him. "You're wearing that to a restaurant like the Summit?" Azim looked down at his white button-up shirt, one that was slightly tight around his belly. I thought it was okay." Fatima rolled her eyes. "You don't even try, Azim. Look at you. You've ballooned. No sense of style, no discipline. You're a disgrace." Azim's smile wilted. That night, they dined in silence. Fatima posed for pictures for Instagram while pretending to be the perfect couple. She barely touched her food. He noticed. But what hurt more than her words was how she flinched when he tried to hold her hand across the table. Something had changed. No, something had been changing, slowly, cruelly. Azim wasn't always overweight. Before marriage, he was sturdy, a bit chubby, but cheerful. It was after he lost his job as a warehouse supervisor during a company-wide downsizing that the weight crept in. Depression, home confinement, and emotional eating took over. But he kept loving Fatima like nothing had changed, preparing breakfast in bed, leaving notes on her dresser, trying to smile through the pain. Fatima, on the other hand, grew resentful. She worked as a receptionist at a high-end dental clinic and was surrounded by lean, wealthy clients. Men who dressed sharply. Men who complimented her. Then came the final straw. One Sunday morning, Fatima stormed into their bedroom waving her phone. "Do you know people laugh at me when they see us together? One of my colleagues sent me a meme of a hippo in a tuxedo and said it reminded him of our wedding pictures." Azim's heart sank. "That's cruel, Fatima." "No. You are cruel for making me settle for this," she said, motioning toward his body with disdain. "I'm young, I'm beautiful. I can't do this anymore." Without another word, she packed a small bag, left the house, and filed for divorce the next day. 3 years passed. Fatima's life took a sharp turn upward, or so she thought. She moved to Abuja and landed a job as the assistant manager of a cosmetic clinic. Her beauty caught attention. Men courted her, and her Instagram became a highlight reel of vacations, selfies, then luxury. But behind the filters was emptiness. She dated a wealthy businessman named Colonel, but he cheated on her with a younger model. Then came Ade, a fitness trainer, who dumped her when she mentioned marriage. Each man she met adored her looks, but never her soul. The conversations were shallow, the gestures transactional. Late at night, she'd scroll through her old photos. Occasionally, she stumbled upon pictures of Azim, cooking jollof rice in the kitchen, dancing goofily with her in the rain, fixing her necklace before a party. She would quickly scroll past, but a small ache would linger. Then one day, while browsing LinkedIn for new job opportunities, her heart nearly stopped. There he was. Azim Musa, CEO of Fit Roots Wellness Nigeria. The same Azim. But different. His profile picture was nearly unrecognizable, a sharply dressed, bearded man, slimmed down, eyes glowing with confidence. A transformation. She clicked on the post beneath his profile. 5 years ago, I was depressed, overweight, and abandoned. Today, I run Nigeria's fastest-growing fitness and wellness company. Not because I needed revenge, but because I needed to remember my worth. If you're reading this and struggling, don't give up. Fatima stared at the screen, unable to blink. A few weeks later, curiosity dragged her to one of FitRoots' motivational seminars in Lekki. She wore a simple dress, glasses to disguise herself, and sat quietly at the back. Then Azim walked onto the stage. There were gasps, applause. He was confident, charismatic, nothing like the man she once shamed. Some of you are here because life beat you down. Maybe you lost someone. Maybe someone left you when you needed them most, he began, eyes briefly scanning the crowd. I've been there. But I stand here today not to gloat. I stand here because pain taught me that healing is louder than bitterness. Fatima's eyes welled up. The words stung. After the seminar, she waited outside the hall. Azim, she called softly. He turned. For a moment, silence stood between them. Then he nodded politely. Fatima. I saw your talk. You've changed. You look amazing. He smiled gently. Thank you. Her voice cracked. I've made mistakes, Azim. I was cruel. I didn't see your pain. I mocked you when I should have helped. I just want to say, I'm sorry. He looked at her for a long moment. Apology accepted. Her heart lifted. Maybe we could talk sometime, she asked hopefully. He paused. I'm flattered, Fatima. But I'm in a relationship now, with someone who saw me even when I couldn't see myself. A long silence. She nodded slowly, tears brimming. She's lucky. No. I'm lucky. As he walked away, Fatima stood alone under the parking lot lights, replaying every moment she'd thrown away. Fatima returned to her apartment that night feeling like a stranger in her own home. The city lights outside her window felt colder, dimmer. She sat in silence on her bed, phone clutched in her hand, scrolling through Azim's Instagram page. Each post was a testament to resilience, transformation photos, workshops, moments with clients, and, most painfully, pictures with a woman who glowed with simplicity and grace. Her name was Jamila. She was no model or influencer. But the way she looked at Azim like he was the best thing that ever happened to her shattered something deep inside Fatima. She remembered how she used to delete Azim's affectionate comments online because she thought they were embarrassing. How she would laugh when he danced in the kitchen or tried to make up silly poems just to cheer her up. Now another woman was holding the same man's hand in public, proud and unashamed. Over the next few days, Fatima tried to convince herself she had moved on. But the truth was harder to swallow, she had traded substance for surface. And what she gave up couldn't be undone. One weekend, she went to visit her mother in Ilorin. You've lost weight, her mother noted. Fatima smiled weakly. It's not intentional. Her mother watched her carefully over the rim of her tea mug. You heard about Azim, haven't you? Fatima nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. I still remember how he fixed the leaking roof of our house with his own money. When your father fell sick, that man didn't sleep. But you were busy complaining about his size. Fatima didn't respond. She felt like a child being scolded by the truth. Later that night, she sat alone on the porch, listening to the quiet of the small town. Her heart was restless. She opened a journal she hadn't written in for years. For the first time in a long while, she poured her soul out on paper. I abandoned love because I thought I deserved luxury. But luxury without love is just noise. Azim loved me at my worst. I left him at his. And now I'm the one broken. Back in Abuja, Fatima decided to redirect her guilt into something meaningful. She began volunteering at a shelter that provided emotional support to women going through divorce and depression. At first, it was awkward, she felt like a hypocrite. But slowly, listening to the stories of pain and regret helped her recognize her own reflection in those women. During a group session, the young mother said, "My husband lost his job and gained weight. I mocked him so much, he stopped talking. I think I broke something in him." Fatima couldn't hold back. "I did the same," she confessed. "And I lost a man who would have given me the world." The room was silent. But I'm trying to learn, she added. Trying to forgive myself. And do better. It was the first time she had truly spoken from her heart, without filters, without pride. Later that evening, as she walked home under the Abuja sunset, her phone buzzed. A notification from Azim's page. New episode of Rise from Ruin podcast now streaming. She clicked. This episode is about betrayal, not just from others, but the betrayal we do to ourselves when we give up on who we are. Forgiveness is not for the person who hurt you. It's for the person you want to become. His voice, calm and powerful, played in her ears like a mirror to her soul. She sat on a bench nearby and closed her eyes, breathing deeply. Maybe she couldn't go back and fix the past. But she could learn from it. It had been months since Fatima last saw Azim. Life was quieter now, not glamorous, but more grounded. Her weekends were spent at the shelter or reading alone in parks instead of clubbing or chasing superficial validation. She began therapy. She took walks. She started writing again, poems, short reflections, letters she never sent. But one Sunday afternoon, an unexpected email changed her day. Subject, invitation, Fit Roots Wellness Anniversary Gala. From info@fitroots.ng. She stared at it for several minutes. Inside was a personalized note. To everyone who supported, challenged, or inspired this journey. We invite you to celebrate our 5th year of transformation. Come see what growth looks like. It wasn't directly from Azim, but she knew he had approved it. Was it a peace offering? An olive branch? Or simply business? Still, something in her heart nudged her to attend, not for reconciliation, but for closure. The gala was held at a luxury eco-resort on the outskirts of Lagos. Fit Roots had grown from a simple gym startup to a nationwide wellness brand. Guests arrived in crisp traditional wear and smart suits. Fatima chose a modest emerald green gown and kept her makeup light. She didn't want to stand out, she wanted to see. As she entered the grand hall, decorated with hanging gardens and soft yellow lighting, her eyes landed on a large banner. Growth begins where ego ends. She exhaled deeply. Speeches began. Testimonials from clients who had lost over 50 kilograms. Recovering addicts who found solace through the gym's mental health program. Even a once suicidal teenager who now worked full-time as a mentor. Then came Azim. He stepped onto the stage in a tailored black kaftan, radiating quiet strength. Good evening. 5 years ago, I sat in my apartment, broken, overweight, humiliated. I thought my story was over. But it wasn't. It had just begun. The pain didn't destroy me, it shaped me. Every rejection, every insult, every silent night became fuel. He scanned the room, his eyes calm. Fatima felt her heart quicken when his gaze passed over her, but he didn't linger. I'm not standing here because I'm perfect. I'm standing because I stopped seeking approval and started seeking purpose. Applause filled the room. After the speeches, there was soft music and networking. Fatima wandered toward the garden, needing air. That's when she heard a voice behind her. You came. She turned. Azim stood there, hands in his pockets, a faint smile on his lips. I wasn't sure if I should. I'm glad you did, he said softly. For a moment, silence. You look strong, she said. I feel strong, he replied. And at peace. She nodded, looking down. That's a beautiful thing to find. Azim studied her for a moment. I know we've both changed, Fatima. I hold no bitterness. And I hope you don't either. I don't, she whispered. Just regret. He took a breath. Regret is useful. If you let it teach you. She smiled faintly. It has. It really has. They stood quietly, two people who once shared a life, now standing as strangers with shared memories. Then a woman approached, Jamila, gentle and warm. Azim, we are starting the group photo. He turned. Coming. Jamila offered a kind smile to Fatima, who returned it. As they walked away together, something shifted inside Fatima. It wasn't jealousy this time. It was peace. Azim had found happiness, and she was finally ready to find her own. 2 years later, Fatima stood on a modest stage, facing a group of young women seated in plastic chairs under a school shed in Makudi. The sun was high, the air humid, and yet the space buzzed with quiet attention. She had been invited by a local NGO to speak about self-worth, emotional intelligence, and healing after toxic relationships. It was something she never imagined doing years ago, back when her self-worth was tied to her reflection and her partner's appearance. But life had changed her. Her voice trembled slightly as she began. I once mocked a man for his body, for not looking like the world told me he should. And I left him, not because he was unkind, not because he wronged me, but because I was blind. I judged love based on appearances, not on character. And I paid the price. The room was silent. The girls were listening. I thought I was upgrading my life. But what I was really doing was downgrading my soul. Real love isn't loud. It's patient. It's quiet service, it's presence, it's being seen even in your lowest form and still being held. I had that, and I threw it away. Tears stung the corners of her eyes, but she continued. I spent years chasing validation. Until one day, I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize myself. That's when I knew it was time to stop blaming others and start growing. A soft applause began, not dramatic, but sincere. After the session, a teenage girl approached her. Ma, do you think people who make mistakes like that ever get second chances? Fatima looked at the girl, then smiled gently. If they are brave enough to face their truth, yes. But sometimes, the second chance isn't with the same person. Sometimes, it's just a second chance to be better. Fatima now worked as a self-worth and emotional healing coach. She didn't do it for fame or likes. She did it because she knew the damage that came from arrogance, from pride, from ignoring pain. She had met someone, a man named Toby, kind, divorced, with a quiet laugh and deep respect for life. They took it slow. No performances, no pretense. Just honesty. But Azim still appeared in her thoughts from time to time. Not as a regret anymore, but as a reminder. Of what growth looked like. Of how people can rise after being broken. Of what it means to truly value another soul. One afternoon, she received a parcel. No name. Just a return address that led back to Fit Roots. Inside was a copy of a self-published memoir by Azim. The Weight of Being Seen. On the first page was a handwritten note. Asterisk to the woman who helped shape my fire. Some lessons burn. But without the flame, the gold doesn't emerge. A. Asterisk. She held the book to her chest and whispered a quiet prayer, not for him to return, not for time to rewind, but for the strength to continue growing. Because she now understood something she hadn't before. True regret isn't about wanting the past back. It's about becoming the kind of person who would never make the same mistake again. In life, we often dismiss those who love us quietly and sincerely, chasing perfection painted by society's shallow brush. But real beauty lives in character. And when we abandon someone for not fitting our shallow ideals, we may one day discover that we lost a diamond while chasing glitter. Fatima's story reminds us that growth is painful, but regret can be a teacher. If we listen.